Hey guys, Furum here, and today I'm going to be testing the Acura NSX GT3 Evo in multiplayer in Asphalt 9 at Golden Max in its season. I'm sure that a lot of people are curious to know how this car does in comparison to its normal sibling, the Acura NSX, which is also a Class C car. Well, the GT3 Evo is around 400 ranks higher, so you might expect that it would be quite a bit better, and it is better, just not astronomically. So this car's top speed is not as good as the Acura's. It goes 203 miles per hour. However, when you are using perfect nitro, you can go all the way up to 214 or 215 actually. So that's like a good 11 to 12 miles per hour speed boost just by using perfect nitro. And thankfully, this car also has better nitro efficiency than the regular Acura as well. Also, the handling is better. The only real thing that is worse about this GT3 Evo versus the normal version is that the GT3's acceleration is like 10 points lower than the normal Acura's. It's like 74 versus 84. For some reason, Gameloft has seemed to have a trend recently of releasing cars that are quite agile, such as this one, while giving them bad acceleration. I don't exactly know the point of that. I guess that started with the Corvette. I guess it was so they would have some kind of weak spot aside from just their top speed, and I can sort of understand that, but it stops this car from being like extremely good. Although it is better than the normal Acura and does get better lap times than it, it's not going to be like the king of its class or anything. And here we barely passed this other guy. You can't do it at the very last second. I've seen him lots of times in multiplayer, pretty skilled driver, and all of the races in this video were recorded either in Pro or Elite League, I believe. So we've certainly got some good competition. And by the way, I could not make this car purple, so I just made it this nice dark blue, which usually is the closest color to purple. We should be getting a Grand Prix for this car sometime soon, so definitely stay tuned for that. The Spark Owl event has begun. That one requires you to own the Neo, which is the current Legend Pass card this season, in order to play it. So a lot of people, including myself, will not be able to play that one. And speaking of special events, a lot of people have asked me if I managed to unlock the Inferno, and unfortunately I did not. I got around like 30 to 40 blueprints for it, so nearly halfway there. However, I was not able to get everything because I did not have all the cars in the event at all of the ranks that they were required to be, because if you're able to 100% the event, you get the 85 out of 85 blueprints, but I couldn't do that, and I didn't really want to spend a few thousand tokens on that car, which is what it probably would have taken to unlock it at minimum, because I would just end up with a 1-star Inferno, which isn't going to be very useful, and I just decided to save my tokens and see what comes next. I'm considering going for this Acura and trying to start up. However, I do not know yet if it's going to be all that useful in the C-Class Elite events. The thing is, I don't really have a good agile C-Class car for a few reasons. Two of them are because they were Legend Pass cars in terms of the Gallardo and the Bentley Mulliner Bacalar, I think it was. Unfortunately, the other one was my own fault. I should have gone for the 599XX at a higher star count, but I was saving my tokens for the next update, in which we knew that the DS3 was going to be coming. And, you know, we were all hoping that the DS3 was going to be more like the Rimac one. That's what I was hoping for. That's why I didn't spend really anything in the Ferrari event. And we all know how that turned out. So I definitely wish that I would have spent on that Ferrari a bit. That's probably one of the more useful ones in that update, at least for me, not buying Legend Pass cars. This guy ahead of me, Bodo Milo, landed on top of me right after I put on Shockwave. I narrowly missed getting knocked down there. This race was probably the closest one that I had in the entire season. Like, we were pretty much going head to head. I went on top of him right there, and he was in Shockwave, so that's why he didn't get knocked down. He was able to pull ahead a little bit after that, but ones like these are just some of the ones that really get my heart pumping. The next multiplayer season we've got after this one ended is one for the Neo, so I will definitely be playing that. That car is quite fun to drive, especially since I'm not going to actually be able to get it. Also, the 1v1 multiplayer game mode has come back, which, as promised, has a 0 token fee for entering at the lowest level. It's still like 350 and 500 at higher levels, but I don't think most people are going to complain about that with a free entry. Unfortunately, unlike what they promised, they did nerf the rewards a little bit, with the top amount of tokens being slightly lower than before. But overall, it's still better than before because you don't have to pay any tokens in order to enter it. So even if the rewards are slightly lower overall, you are technically getting a net gain over what you would have had before, just because you don't have to spend anything to get into it in the first place, and all the tokens that you get out of it will be free. So I'm planning to make a video about that. They are all 1-lap races this time, I believe, which is different from the last couple of ones where they were all 2 laps. I personally like this change because most oftentimes what happened in the previous ones was either I would get way ahead or the other person would get way ahead after a wreck, and then the second lap was just really uneventful most of the time. And so for the sake of not taking forever, I'm glad that they reduced it to 1 lap. However, some people, and I can understand this, are upset about it because they felt like the 2 laps allowed for more comebacks and things like that. The problem is, all of the cars are going to be almost exactly the same, so if you come across somebody with the same skill levels you're not going to be able to catch up, or they're not going to be able to catch up. So I think in most cases, that's just not really going to happen. It happened in maybe like 2 of all the ones that I played previously. There are also some new things going on in the daily events that you won't want to miss. So there's an F40 car hunt for everybody, as well as a Corvette C8 car hunt for Legend Pass owners only. And last but not least, we have the Spark Owl daily event that lasts for the duration of the special event, in which you can get up to 1,800 tokens. Unfortunately, some of those tokens are locked behind Legend Pass cars such as the Corvette C8 or the Neo or the Spark, which you cannot get unless you have the Neo, as well as behind this Acura as well. However, you can get up to 1,000 tokens with just cars that you own right now. Currently, I'm sitting at around 6,700 tokens after getting the 300 tokens from the Zenvo, and after I play all the ones that I can in that, I should be closer to 7,500. I'm not entirely sure what I'm saving my tokens for yet. If this Acura turns out to be really good in its class, I might go for that and start up. But aside from that, I'm not really sure yet. We'll have to see. Recently, a lot of the tokens I've gotten, I've been spending on older cars to star them up more, like for example my 5-star Sheeran, which I have upgraded to that point now, and so you can expect a video about that at some point. But also I've been using tokens to just unlock some cars that I didn't have before, like for example the Vanda and the Genty. I just find this to be more worth it in some cases than spending on a lot of the newer cars, which you might have to spend many thousands or tens of thousands on to get to the point where they're actually good or competitive in multiplayer or events. So typically what I do is I just save up as much as I can, bypassing the cars that aren't really going to help me much, and saving for either a really good car, which I know I can spend a lot on and get to a good point, or wait for the times where I can star up or unlock other cars that I might not have yet. So that is typically my policy for token spending. Rarely do I spend on things like refills and stuff like that, instead just doing ads for those. And so that's how I'm able to keep a relatively steady amount of tokens, and I always try to keep around a couple thousand or so on me, no matter what I'm doing pretty much, just in case of, I don't know, say I had to refill a bunch for some reason. I just want to be able to have the tokens to do something like that if I really needed to. So we are now back on Osaka with this Acura, and Osaka is one of those tracks that it should be pretty good at. Unfortunately, I hit the wall there, went over to the side. This guy who I passed on the ramp back there almost passed me again, but he did go the slight longer way, and I was able to stay ahead. You can see around these turns, the Acura gets around with no problem at all. It's not even coming close to hitting the sides, and overall, it's just been a very fun car to drive. Dare I say, more fun than the regular Acura, even though it doesn't accelerate as fast. It's able to get around the corners better, and it just feels like a smoother car, whereas in some cases the other Acura, while still fun to drive, felt a little bit stiff around some of the corners. And I guess that leads us into my general review about this car as we enter our final race of the video. It is undoubtedly a very good C-Class car once you factor in the improved speed coming from the perfect nitro, and its nitro is generally long enough to sustain that throughout the most of most races. And I don't know what happened just there, my car randomly did a weird jump. I haven't really had any stability issues with this car too. It seems to be pretty well grounded, except for, well, what just happened right there. Other than that though, haven't had any weird happenings like turning on its side or randomly flipping or stuff like that. So the the Acura NSX GT3 Evo seems to be quite reliable with a very good handling, drifting, and nitro efficiency with a pretty average, I would say, top speed, but its biggest weakness is probably its acceleration, which is only around 74 to 75. So you will find that if you get this car and use it in multiplayer, even at higher stars, you will fall behind a bit in the beginning, but probably if you're in Silver League with this car, the better agility than a lot of the other C-Class cars that can go faster than this one will allow it to win a lot of races. And speaking of winning races, we take our final victory here as we pass this guy around the final turn. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like the video if you have enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt and other games content. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!